The BRSCC BMW Compact Cup is brought to you by Nankang Tyres and Gas Shocks.
We now have our third race of the weekend for the Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup, but this one is the first ever 30-minute race. It's double length. We usually have 15-minute sprint races for these guys. It's now a longer 30-minute race here on the 300 circuit. What also makes this interesting is that we also have, not only is the grid set from 11th place downwards by the results of race number 2, but also, on top of that, the top 10 are also then put into a random draw to decide their grid places for this final race, which means we won't have exactly the person that started to won those two races, Stephen Daly, on pole position. He's back in, I can see, 5th. It's a bit of a jumbled up order as we had, and we had that at Knock Hill for the third race, and it really did produce an absolute belter. So I expect, particularly with the longer race here, we might get just the same, if not just double the length, so drivers have to work hard and be careful not to burn up their Nankang tyres too much. So all the cars are now set on the grid, where they go for the green flag lap. So here's how they line up then. So the random grid draw for the first 10 has then given us the following order. Then it should be, I think it should be, well, I've got Rhys Clayden on pole position. So Rhys Clayden I have starting on pole position alongside Guy Davis alongside him. I then have Ian Jones and Ben Huntley on the second row of the grid, followed by Stephen Daly 5th and Ian House 6th, then Paul Mcguire and Lee Dendy Sadler, and then we have Matt Flowers and Mikey Doble rounding out the top 10. So I think it's a bit of a jumbled up order there, I think, in terms of the grid that we had for those guys. The rest of it then for the top 10, it shows Matt Flowers and Mikey Doble on the 5th row of the grid. Row 6, which is then the 11th backwards, is where they finished in race 2. So it's Simon Welton and Jim Barrett on the 6th row of the grid. Cliff Harper and Thomas Middleton are on row 7, ahead of Chris McGinley and Gareth Clayden. Then it's Martin Gadsby and Henry Cook, followed by Thomas Langford and Gregor Pryor. Then it's Mike Doble and Ross Stoner ahead of Stephen Somerville and Peter Smith, with Tom Evans, Richard Sutherland, Rhys Clayden, and Peter Parsons rounding out the 28-car grid. So we haven't got all 31 cars that we had yesterday. Sadly, we haven't got 3 cars that are missing. So round the cars head for their formation lap. As I say, the grid, this top 10 randomly drawn. So Rhys Clayden then finds himself with the daunting task of starting on pole position. And of course, he has got Guy Davis alongside him. Now, I did mention in the second race that Guy Davis, earlier on, that in the past at races like Thruxton, I think last year, he has been in a position where he's been challenging for the lead and challenging for a strong victory. Now, that's, of course, in a race which is about 15 minutes. You have to consider these are races that are 30 minutes long, not 15. So this might well be an interesting case to see whether or not Guy Davis, if he does get to the front, if he can stay there and if he can last the distance, if others might either burn up their tyres a bit too much or possibly, dare I say, I think no one wants to have this problem, but either run out of fuel, shall we say. But I'm pretty sure everyone's fueled up just about enough to make sure they can do 30 minutes. I'm sure it's pretty much however much fuel they put in for a 15-minute race, double it, and they should be good for the 30 minutes plus enough to get round to the grid and then back in again once the flag drops. So they'll be forming up here. Let's take a look at where they are then. So in terms of the main contenders for the championship so far, in terms of where they're sat, well, they're actually pretty much in close proximity to each other, because we've got Ian Jones starting in 3rd on the grid. Ben Huntley starts 4th, and then 5-time winner this year and double winner so far this weekend, Stephen Daly, is currently sat in 5th position alongside Ian Howes from him. Paul Mcguire is back in 7th. Lee Dendy Sadler could get a decent result from 8th on the grid. He's had a bit of an up and down time in recent times for the BMW Compact Cup in the last couple of seasons. And then it's 9th place for Matt Flowers and 10th for Mikey Doble. So Mikey, of course, has been in the mix for the last couple of races, was up there in 3rd place in the first 2 races, had that photo finish in the first race yesterday, and then was chasing Ben Huntley all the way in the second one. So he'll have some work to do coming from right at the back of the top 10. So the field makes its way around. Rhys Clayden, of course, will have this brand new experience of starting from pole position, but he'll have to try and make the most of it and get a good start. I would probably expect possibly Guy Davis. I'm happy to be proven wrong. Guy Davis might well get the jump on him here, but again, watch out for the likes of Ian Jones, Ben Huntley and Stephen Daly. I can guarantee you they will not want to hang around in 3rd, 4th and 5th very long. They might want to try and snatch away the positions from both all three of them want to try and dispatch, if they can, Russell Cage and Guy Davis, so that they can go and have a private battle at the front. The one I think, as I say, has got to do the most work out of those front runners is definitely going to be Mikey Doble, starting back in 10th, so he's got to keep an eye on that one. Now, the one driver I'm going to watch for to see if he's on the grid, which he is, showing 27th, is Rhys Clayden. So he had that incident. Well, I don't know exactly what caused it. My suspicion is he must have hit the curb at the bomb hole a bit too hard. I'm not 100% sure, because I don't think he hit anyone when he was forced out of the race. But it was an odd situation where he came round out of corner and saw he backed off, exiting the bomb hole with the right hander, which has that compression right at the dip, and for some bizarre reason, he sort of stopped and had a damage to his front bumper, and I couldn't explain the reason why, because I hadn't seen what might have caused it. I don't think it fell loose or anything. It looked like he'd actually given it a hit. So I'm pleased to say, though, that it looks as though, in fact, he is... I thought he was right there, but... As I thought we'd look at the sky for a second there, but back to our grid. But yeah, the car number 10, it does appear to be on the grid at the back of the field alongside Peter Parsons' car number 70, so that's the good thing. Again, 3 cars that was due to race yesterday, sadly not on the grid, so just back down to 28. And some of the drivers, as they've been heading around, have had the windows open, because it might well be overcast and with clouds in the sky, but it's still quite warm and quite humid, 22 degrees out there, so it doesn't look sunny. It doesn't look warm, but it does actually feel warm out there. So, which is the current climate in the British summer weather. A little flash of the headlights you saw there from Stephen Daly, just a bit of a signal to Ian Jones's mirror. Watch out, mate. I'm right behind you. And he's certainly going to be putting the pressure on him right from the off from the third row of the grid. So just quick colour check then. It's the white and grey machine with the blue piping, which is Russell Cage on pole position. I think the brightest car on the grid, which is the purple, fluorescent yellow and green car, that is Guy Davis. The black car with the pink trim, that is Ian Jones. The blue car with the yellow stripe down the middle, that is Ben Huntley. The white car with the black bonnet and the orange trim, that is Stephen Daly. And then watch for Ian Howes in the new image sponsored dark blue and red machine from the third row of the grid. So all set for the third race, the first ever 30-minute encounter for the Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Club at Snetterton. Red lights are up any second now. We're underway and racing. Strong start from the first few rows. Steve Daly's got away well from the third row. The Bears, they tear away from the line. And again, as many have been in this field, 3 and 4 abreast. And here they come, down towards it. They are 4 abreast down towards Richie's corner. Goodness me, that's going to have to sort itself out. Into turn 1 for the first time through Richie's. There's some smoke. Someone's gone off somewhere. I think someone's gone wide. Guy Davis is off the road in a cloud of dust. Someone's going to come out of it somewhere in the lead. They're also breaking to try and hold on. But as they come out towards the hairpin for the first time, who's in front? Who else? Stephen Daly from fifth on the grid into the lead. So straight away picking his way through. Russell Cage, meanwhile, poor Russell Cage has been shuffled in immediately down onto about 7th or 8th position. So his pole was a bit short-lived, but he's trying to hold on as best he can, going inside of Matt Flowers into the left-hander at Palmer's. But unsurprisingly, in many cases, up into Baligo Stephen Daly to second Ben Huntley. Is that Mikey Doble in third place? It is. Mikey Doble's gone from 10th to 3rd on the first few corners. That's an astonishing move. 3 abreast into the hairpin. Ian Jones takes a big dive up the inside of both Guy Davis and Mikey Doble Jr. and somehow pulls it off. I told you Ian Jones was crazy. He's one of the most energetic drivers in the field. So living up to his reputation there, he's going up to 3rd place, making that big move. I think there's been a bit of contact though, because you can see there's a bit of a dent and some damage on the front end of Ian Jones's car there. So I'll watch out to see if that's going to have any effect. But remember, this is a 30-minute race. It's a long way to go. So this is what's practically a bit of endurance race for these guys. But 30 minutes is a long time for these guys to get some extra track time. But might well be quite an intriguing battle all the way through. So Mikey Doble will start then. We've got him up to 3rd position. Drops him down to 5th at the expense of both Ian Jones and Guy Davis. In fact, Guy Davis got back past Ian Jones on the exit of Williams there. So Ian Jones must have run wide a little bit there. And now Guy Davis back through. Now, Guy, of course, again, he's been in podium positions before, but has had to try and contend with whatever pace he's got to stay around them. And of course, the hell of the drivers that are trying to close in and hold on. It's not going to help him there, running wide on the exit of Brundle and Nelson. They'll file their way through the complex here. A couple more cars running wide, but they're all pretty much line astern as they filter their way through the S's. Now back onto the pit straight for the end of the first lap. There's the 129 of Adcock in the background. So now the top two trying to break away already. Stephen Daly in his customary place at the head of the field, followed by Ben Huntley in second place. Guy Davis is third, followed by Ian Jones and then Mikey Doble, who's remember starting 10th, is now up to 5th place already, but was as high as third before Ian Jones decided to surprise the pair of them with a move on the inside of Agostini. So Daly from Huntley, then a challenge on for third because Guy Davis has Ian Jones climbing all over him down towards the right-hander at Ritchie's. 5th position for Mikey Doble, 6th for Jim Barrett. Good start for Jim, in fact, actually, amongst the top 10. He's up 6 spots. In fact, he started outside the top 10 in 12th, up 6 positions to 6th. So that's a cracking start for him so far. 7th place for Matt Flowers, 8th for Simon Welton, 9th for Paul Mcguire, and Paul Russell Cage just started on pole position and ends the first lap in 10th. So I think he should be happy just to survive that after he got almost kind of piled on by everyone else behind him. So Ian Howes has also dropped 6 places where he started. He's down from 6th down to 12th. So it's almost as if, ironically, Jim Barrett and Ian Howes have traded places as they come out of the left-hander Palmers. Oh, in the background, I spoke too soon. Jim Barrett's around. Also, Russell Cage is on the grass. So is Simon Welton. But Jim Barrett is the one that I think got a tag from somebody. Also on the grass. They're all going off to try and avoid him. He's right in the middle of the road on the exit of Palmers. One of the cars that went wide was car 44. I'll try and find my number of that if I can find it amongst my programme notes here for a second, because they're all over the place. I'll find out in a minute. Meanwhile, whilst I'm doing that, Mikey Doble Jr. goes up the inside of Ian Jones for what is now 4th position. The cloud of dust from when everyone started going off the road is still hanging in the air, exiting Palmers. So that would have given everyone a fright, but everyone managed to survive that. So the other car that went off was Chris McGinley. I saw Simon Welton went off as well. There was another car that went off off the road, but I didn't quite catch who it was. But the big casualty out of that, although thankfully it seems without too much major damage, is, I believe, looks like it's going to be Jim Barrett, who's, I said it had a great start from 6th to 12th, and then, typical commentator's curse, it's him dropping down the order with an incident. There was yellow flags on the exit of the Agostini hairpin, so I'm not sure if there was another car that stopped because of that. So now into the bomb hole for the second time. That's Guy Davis holds that 3rd place. 4th place now for Mikey Doble. 5th now for Ian Jones. But there is Stephen Daly. When isn't he leading a compact cup race? He managed to pick his way through from 5th on the grid at the start, and immediately by the time he got to Wilson Hairpin, the second corner of the race, he was already into the lead. So I'm sure that onboard's going to make for good viewing afterwards when we see him start from 5th to 1st. If there was any kind of fisticuffs between the cars in front of him, I didn't quite catch who it was. It was slightly off camera, but I'm sure there might be some footage of some of the onboard guys that will be coming up later on. So side by side for 3rd place, and Mikey Doble managed to sweep in front of Guy Davis before they even turn in for Ritchie's corner, but Guy's going to try and fight back here and get a really good run through the right-hander. It will pull him alongside on the sprint down towards Wilson Hairpin. Doble will have to give him the room if he can dive up and show his nose. Davis goes for it. Doble says, right, okay, well, if you insist, after you. And Davis then, well, he might have good traction initially. Doble's outside line gives him a bit more grip, and he, on the racing line, just managed to put himself in front before they hit the brakes to turn left into Palmers. So out of the left-hander they go. Daly still from Huntley, those two pulling away as usual. Still Doble in 3rd position, Guy Davis 4th. Then we have Ian Jones in 5th. I think that's Matt Flowers in 6th position. He's had a good start to this race so far. Up on the pace in 6th. There he is, car number 3. Car number 5 is Paul Mcguire, the current leading Masters guy in 7th place. Then everyone else arrives trying to be 8th. Rhys Clayden. That's Rhys Clayden. Remember, he started at the back of the grid in 27th position. He's already into the top 10 at the moment. He's currently sat at the moment in... That was him passing, I think, Ian Howes. He was also attacking Simon Welton. So he's now up to 9th. He's now attacking Simon Welton from 8th position. So remember, he has had quite a strong weekend so far this year. So he had that. If he hadn't retired from the second race, he would have been surely up there in the top 5. But he did pick up a 4th place in race 1. So got some work to do to try and move back up. He then basically forced his way past Simon Welton. He really had some adventures today after he had that expedition onto the grass. They're going to go 3 wide down the back straight here. Careful, boys. This might not end well if you carry on like this. In the middle of Simon Welton. Looks to his left, he's got Ian Howes. Looks to his right, he's got Rhys Clayden. And this one going to play out. They are going to go 3 abreast into the complex. Round the outside of Welton goes Clayden and Ian Howes. goes around the outside of the pair of them and says, thank you very much, and up into 7th position he goes. So cracking stuff there for Rhys Clayden. That's, forgive me, 8th in fact, actually, that is. Behind him, he's got Russell Cage recovering after his start, and also Gareth Clayden's in there too, the second of the Master Mix Concrete sponsored cars. There goes the top 5 through the shot, followed by Matt Flowers and Paul Mcguire. Then the second group here, headed of course by Russell by Rhys Clayden. Then Ian Howes in car 27, the 6 of Simon Welton, the 69 of Russell Cager. We've got the second Master Mix Concrete sponsored car of Gareth Clayden, so keeping it in the family here as they just outside the top 10. And Rhys Clayden, while he had the advantage, Ian Howes has a look, darts out from the slipstream, isn't fast enough in the toe, has to get back into it. Now look into the outside line as they turn in, just touching the grass on the white line as they turn in and pitch the car right all the way through this long right-hander at the first corner of Ritchie's. A little bit of dust being kicked up, but that just shows how hard they're pushing. Ian Howes thinks, right, my turn to dive up the inside this time. Makes the move. Rhys Clayden lets him have it, and if he opens the door too much, Simon Welton says, excuse me, can I come through as well? I quite like my position back if you don't mind, Rhys. Side by side again. Now the run towards the left-hander at Palmer's. Rhys Clayden will have the inside line now and gets back through. Towards the run at Agostini, still to check on the leaders. Now the gap is just under a second, but the fastest lap of the race did just go to Ben Huntley, 2:22.235 compared to a 2:22.3 for Stephen Daly in the lead. Mikey Noble is still in 3rd position, 4.8 seconds off the lead, and he currently leads the group between himself, Guy Davis and Ian Jones. We still continue to watch on to this battle that's just on the fringes of the top 10. The scrap for 8th place for Rhys, well, it was his 8th place for Rhys Clayden, but it's currently 8th place for Ian Howes and 9th place for Rhys Clayden, who of course, remember, started back in 27th after he retired from race 2. On a big slide for Simon Welton as he turns in through Williams. These little BMW compacts are rear-wheel drive, so if you push them too hard, they will kick out the tail and make life difficult for you. Now in the top 10, now we see it's Russell, that's just outside it, is Russell Cager. He's now chased down by Gareth Clayden for 11th and 12th places. Turning in through the complex of Brundle and Nelson, still Ian Howes, who had a wild ride last time we saw him at Knockhill. He was trying to make a move on Ray McDowell. I remember he sort of ended up on the grass on the inside exiting the, I think it was McIntyre's, and then through the right-hander at Butcher's at Knockhill. He then got pushed up, he got sort of edged onto the grass and ended up rocket that was launched over the sausage curve on the inside line, and that kind of caused some damage that required the entire paddock to try and help him out to get him out for race number 3, which he did, but he was quite down the order towards the back of the field. Right at the front of the field is a scrap on here for what should be 4th position. Here comes Ian Jones, looking up the inside, wheel to wheel, door handle to door handle, almost touching wing mirrors as he turns into the right-hander at Ritchie's. That was pretty much precision driving in some cases from Ian Jones. And manages to just squeeze past into 4th position, just with a little kiss of the wing mirrors as he went through. That was quite elegant from Ian Jones, someone who's quite flamboyant. Usually elegance isn't quite in his driving style, but he won't mind me saying that, but it's quite an exciting driver to watch, but that was quite nice, delicate touch of the wing mirrors there as he went through into the right-hander. Very precisely placed the car there. So he's down to 4th position. He's now released to try and go after Mikey Doble. We're coming up towards the half distance in this race. Usually if it was a regular compact cup race, we'd have only 4.5 minutes to go, but there's 19.5 minutes to go because there's still another 15 minutes on top of the regular race distance. Here's Paul Mcguire putting a threat on Matt Flowers. He's going to try and put himself alongside if he can, try and dive up inside of Hamilton. He's got the line, force Matt Flowers to go around the outside, but if Flowers stays there, he will be on the right line for the next corner, which is a right-hander, that being Oggies. They both break at pretty much exactly the same point. And Flowers says, it's not going to work too much. Paul trying on the inside, and Paul says, right, I'll undercut you there on the run towards Williams, which he does, slips up the inside. And that's the move completed. That is now Paul Mcguire up into 6th position. Matt Flowers down 7th. So Matt will try and get him back in the slipstream here. These are quite boxy cars, these BMW compacts, so the holiday punch in the air is quite substantial by the looks of it. Which is good to see. So there goes 4th and 5th. Jones Davis, 6th and 7th now coming through. Paul Mcguire, let's see what he can do to try and catch up. And Paul Mcguire with a big tail slide. He lost the back end completely, heading into the right-hander at the Nelson. Just about held it on the grass with the bomb hole. I'm sure rather bemused and rather amused Matt Flowers. So I'm sure Paul Mcguire had a bit of a panic moment there. Matt Flowers, I think, right, I'm going to have you now down the pit straight. So now he's recomposed himself. Paul Mcguire continues on in the lead as they turn their way in towards Murray's now for the 5th time. Across the line go the leaders. Stephen Daly's lead has got out now to 1.2 seconds. He's taken the fast lap of the race back again. There's a black and white flag going out for 2 cars, with one of which is car 27. That's Ian Howes in 8th position. And then in the other car that's had the warning is car back in 21st. That's Ross Stoner in car 22. So those 2 cars being warned for track limits. If they transgress once more, they will get a 5-second penalty for that, added onto their race time at the end. And if they keep on extending track limits, they'll keep on getting more and more time penalties added on top of that, until eventually they could even get shown the black flag if you really do it too many times and essentially ignore the stewards, which no one wants to do. No one intends to do, of course, but such are the strict track limits at circuits like MSV. Most do have these little pressure pads on them, but particularly one I've noticed is Brands Hatch, where if you just activate it even a tiny amount, it's seen as track limits, and it sends a nice photo up to the clerk of the course to show them that you have actually gone over the white line too much, and it's pretty much inarguable evidence. So the drivers do have to take care not to extend too much on the exit of corners. This being one of them, I think, the exit of Agostini. So coming up to half distance now in this first ever 30-minute Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup race. So far, no real change in the status quo. It's still Stephen Daly who leads the way, but he doesn't have the fastest lap of the race anymore, because that's gone too, believe it or not. Rhys Clayden, one of his teammates in car number 10 in 9th position. He's at a 2:22.944, which is only 0.005 of a second quicker than the fastest lap of the race that had just been set by Stephen. So Rhys Clayden at the moment is pretty much as quick as Stephen at the moment. There's Gareth Clayden, that's the sibling of Rhys. And that's a scrap battle that's going on just outside the top 10 in 11th and 12th positions. So we head down to the left-hander at Brundle, and the short, sharp right-hander of Nelson. It's always a tricky braking zone for Brundle, because you have to brake and turn pretty much at the same time, or try and angle the car at such a degree that when you're braking, it's as straight as possible before you then have to turn the car in through the right-hander. And even then, when you turn it through the right-hander, you have to be careful not to thump the curb too hard, as Gareth Clayden just did there, and get the car out of shape. We also saw that with Paul Mcguire, who went into that complex way too hot and just about caught it, but ended up onto the grass and somehow still stayed in front of Matt Flowers as a result. So lots of work for him to do, and it's never an easy surface to tackle or tame, is Snetterton. It's different from the days when it was a simple, just almost like a rectangle in many cases, where instead of turning all the way around 180 degrees through the right-hander of Wilson hairpin, they would turn simply right through what was called Sear, and then down what was called the Revit straight, and back into the S's, and then through the bomb hole, the old core, and then what was a little chicane from Russell, before they came back down the centre straight once again. As the field goes pouring through, I think I saw that was Martin Gadsby chasing down Pete Smith in car number 17, so that was a battle towards the outside of the top 20. There's Matt Flowers in car number 3. There is Stephen Daly with a piece of trim hanging off the back of that car, so either that's a bumper or, I don't want to dare say an exhaust, but either way, again, I'm sure it's not a big enough piece of material that might bother the stewards, but I think that's possibly one of the KC Motorsport guys down there having possibly argued the case there, I think, because we saw earlier on with the STXR Challenge race, Sam Beckett was given a black and orange flag for these rear bumper trailing, and so be careful that even though it's a small piece of bodywork, it might well possibly raise the eye of the stewards, so possibly spot it, you have to possibly, if it has to call that flag, it means he has to come into the pit lane and have it removed. So if that small piece of trim doesn't dislodge itself, it could well be a bit of a race ruiner for Stephen Daly that might well deny him from the hat-trick. There's Jim Barrett, by the way, after his spin, which frightened everyone behind him exiting Palmer's. For the record, where he is back in 24th position, so he was up there Tyre 6th at one point after he started 12, made up a brilliant start in the first lap, and it all came undone just a couple of laps later. There's 22 of that is Ross Stoner. Smart looking car, that, the orange car with the grey with the grey, black and white striping, and he's now having a battle at the moment. I think that's Chris McGinley he's scrapping with there in car 22. No, it's 217 that's gone past, who immediately locks up going to the complex. That is, well, it was, as he goes off the road, Stephen Somerville. It's his first weekend in Compact Cup, and he's all over the place. He's off, he's on, he's sideways, he's trying to get back onto the road without losing the front end, and bounce back on and loses 3 spots as a result of that. Martin Gadsby goes through, so there's also Pete Smith, and I think also that was the 33 that went through. That was also Ian Shepherd. So welcome to Compact Cup on that one, Stephen. Enjoy your stay. Anyway, back to the front runners. Rhys Clayden is still following in the wheel tracks of Ian Houser, who in turn has been... They're both catching Paul Mcguire. So Paul Mcguire, has he dropped behind Matt Flowers here? Again, there's Rhys Clayden with a big move up the inside. Paul Mcguire lost it himself, and Rhys Clayden tried to sprake and almost went around in sympathy. That was not coordinated, I can tell you. There was no contact either. We should give you a replay of that, but unfortunately we can't. But Rhys Clayden does a complete 360 pirouette at the hairpin, and away he goes again. So that was... if that doesn't make it into the end of season awards video, I'll be absolutely surprised, because that was quite a moment between those two. For what I saw, no contact. Rhys Clayden went way too hot into the corner, and as a result, Paul Mcguire simply just literally, by coincidence, also lost the back end as well, and just about caught it. So that was quite an amusing moment. So down the pit straight, so down the back straight towards the left-hander at the left-hander at Hamilton's, back into Oggies once again. This is the scrap that's going on for 6th and 7th now. Ian Houser has made it through thanks to that mistake there from Paul Mcguire. So he's made up some nice places from where he started. Again, confirmation on the leaders in the top 5. Still Stephen Daly nearly 2 seconds ahead at the front of the field. I'll just reset my time for a second there, because it's showing Stephen Daly's having completed 6 laps when it should be 7. That's not right. So just give a quick refresh to make sure that I'm not seeing things. No, it is 7 laps. Just a bit quick glitch in my timing there for a second. There was Ian Jones in the shot. There's Guy Davis, 5th position. Having one of his stronger weekends of late. To this point, if I look at the points table, I can bring it up on my screen here for a second. Have a look and see what we've got. He was at his highest point finish so far this year. I don't think he's been higher than about 4th or 5th, but I want to correct that myself. Across the line goes Stephen Daly then, still with Ben Huntley in pursuit, still the top 2 as it was. So have a quick look here. Guy Davis, yeah, his results so far from not killed, his best result so far, I'm going to work that out now. That was I think it was a 7th place, 2 7th places at not killed, because you get 50 points for a win, 47 for 2nd, 45 for 3rd, and then it's 40, and then it's down by 1 point down to the last finish that can get a point. So 44, 43, 42. Forgive me the live maths for a second. That is actually at 6th position. So 6th position, 2 6th places for Guy Davis. Bit of live mathematics there on the BRSC live stream. My GCSE maths wasn't in vain. It's funny because it's true. Anyway, to the leaders, back down the short straight. Now, one thing I did get told was a few moments ago there was rain expected. It said rain roughly about 10-15 minutes ago, rain in 15 minutes, and those skies are darkening, aren't they? So maybe the rain which we thought was going to abate might well be possibly on its way. Now, I can also see as well, I think someone else has had a track limits warning flag. Let's have a look. If they have, it's gone back in again, but the board is being readied for somebody. And I don't know if it's possibly, well, the board says on it 5-second penalty. I can see it out of my commentary box window, just looking across at the pit wall opposite race control, and I can see that maybe that possibly could be something that could be held out to someone who is still transgressing track limits or is about to get a penalty because they've done it too much. Also, I'm quite intrigued that Stephen Day's piece of trim hasn't fallen off yet, so that's interesting. Now, someone's getting something out, and that's 27-22. Now, the board's going out. Now, is that an actual 5-second penalty being given to both of them? Yes, it is. 2 penalties being handed out. One of them is going to Ian Howes in 6th position. The other one is going to Ross Stoner. So, unfortunately, whilst they have been warned about track limits and got the warning flag, I'm afraid that whether it's been purposeful or not, they have not been able to keep away from overstepping the white line one too many times. And therefore, it means they will have to have a 5-second penalty added on to their race times at the end. So they have been warned, but sadly, they're not going to get a penalty for still running too wide at certain points of the circuit. So Daly then still leads. hugs the pit wall as he gets the shortest route down the pit straight. There is still in this longer race. We're now deep into the second half. Just under 8.5 minutes to go. Third place there for Mikey Doble. It seems as though over a longer distance, these two appear to be the class of the field so far. Daly and Huntley, the two main contenders right now in the championship. They came into the weekend 20 points apart, with Daly ahead of Huntley. And given the fact that he hasn't really dropped any points from victory so far, looks like lead's only going to increase as they head towards the next round. The next time the Compact Cup heads out, it will be after Snetterton this weekend. Snetterton, they'll be out at Cabell Park in August, and then they'll have two back-to-back visits at Donington Park. The first one being a regular BRSCC meeting, and then the second one in October is part of the Donington Decider support package for the British GT Championship. So another championship that gets the luxury and the pleasure of being part of the biggest championships in the UK on the same timetable as them. I'm sure the two races that are set there, they will relish the chance to not only compete there, but also we may well see the championship settled there as well, if not beforehand, if Stephen Daly hasn't put one hand on it by the time they go to Donington the first time, a month before. So they head out of Oggies into Williams for another time. This is on lap count here, lap 9. So they're on the 10th lap of the race. They've completed 9 laps, they're on lap 10. And they come down the back straight once again. Ben Huntley, gap to Stephen Daly is, I say only 2 seconds, and he was fractionally faster last lap than Stephen Daly, but fractionally faster isn't going to be good enough to catch him and pass him, so he needs to try and find something in this latter part of the race. And I wonder, this might be the strategy point here in terms of whether or not the fact that they are running a longer race, it's longer on the tyres, it's longer on the fuel as well, so whether or not that means that some drivers might get quicker towards the end of the race because they've looked after their tyres a bit better, or they haven't pushed as hard but kept enough for pace to keep any cars in front of them around them. Now then, that's an interesting point. Look at that. There is rain on the camera. You can see rain's around, and it's not just sprinkling. It is absolutely starting to hammer it down. This could be a factor. And Stephen Daly heads into the final corner. He goes off the road on the slippery surface. Race leader Stephen Daly is off the road on the exit. He's lost a piece of trim. That's a silver lining. He goes across the road. Wasn't intentional going onto the grass, but I think Ben Huntley's also went off quite wide, but he hasn't actually lost too much time, in fact, so that's quite unfortunate. Oh, Paul Mcguire's off the road. I think the rain's come down pretty suddenly, and it's catching several drivers out. Off the road's Paul Mcguire, and so is also Simon Welton. He's off onto the grass. So is Ian Howes. It's catching several drivers out. It really has. I think one of the Claydens also off in the background as well. Oh, Rhys Clayden's off again. So the rain comes down, and it creates, well, quite a spectacle here for these guys. Oh, and off the road, and that's the other Clayden car. That's Gareth Clayden. The Clayden's not having a good few seconds here, are they? As they come back onto the road. The rain really has caught everyone out at the moment here in this Compact Cup race. Off the road is also, I think that's Chris McGinley's got off the road, I think. One of them at least. He's got the number. That's car 75. That is, sorry, Thomas Langford, forgive me. Also has had a mishap there is 311. And that's Henry Cook. So another one off the road then, not 217. That's Stephen Somerville's gone around for his second adventure of the day. So they're all hitting trouble at Coram. That seems to be where it's raining the hardest. But thankfully everyone's getting going again, so it's not really warranting any like a yellow flag or a safety car at all. But look at them, they're in the rain now. It's absolutely pouring down, and they're tiptoeing around at Coram. Another car off the road, that's 129. That is Matthew Adcock. They're almost falling like flies here, but at the same time, they're all keeping it on the road and not actually making contact with anyone or anything. And I think even Paul Mcguire got back going again. So this really could throw a spanner into the works here. Really could change things up dramatically. But this is Simon Welton going on a move for Ian Howes, but the order's really changed up so much. There's Ben Huntley. So we need to take stock of where we are when they come back across the line, because there were several cars that were involved in that. Oh, there's 2 more cars off the road at the hairpin. One was Paul Mcguire again. He's off the road there as he comes back onto the road, so there's more rain throwing down. And that is one of the Dobles. Was that? No, that was Mike Doble Sr., the second time he's gone around at that corner. So it's there's quite an energetic few moments there in the BMW Compact Cup. Stephen Daly's off again. He's off at the exit of Nelson. Cannot keep it on the road at the moment. The rain continues to pelt down, goes through the bomb hole, off the racing line, and they're going to have to really change their line on the fly here, because on the racing line they're going to be slippery on the rubber that's gone down. Off the road's got Martin Gadsby and Kyle Miller, another car to fall foul of the conditions. They're slip sliding and tiptoeing around everywhere here. Look at it, it's absolutely bucketing down with rain here at Snetterton. We said there was a rainstorm coming, and it wasn't kidding. It's not just a shower, it's an absolute deluge. And off the road again goes Stephen Daly for the second time at the Murray's corner. And Steady carries on in the lead. Ben Huntley's being a bit more careful. Oh, round again, that's gone with number 8 car, Richard Sutherland. There are cars almost trying to keep it on the road. Is pretty tricky in these conditions. You can't really blame them because the rain's come down ever so suddenly. They're going to throw the checker flag early, 3 minutes to go. And no surprise, because I think if they carried on any longer, there would have been more cars going off the road in conditions they weren't going to expect. So checker flag is thrown, I think mainly just to end the race early for safety reasons, to ensure there's not any more cars sailing off the road at high speeds. So what it means then is Stephen Daly, incredibly, has a saving grace. The checker flag is thrown early, and he will hold on to his victory, incredibly, despite going off 3 times in 2 laps. So Daly's given the win then off the checker flag. Second place goes to Ben Huntley. Third will go to Mike Doble. As for behind that, we need to figure it out, because it's Ian Jones in 4th, Matt Flowers is 5th, Guy Davis dropped down to 7th in the end, behind Simon Welton, who climbed up the order in those last couple of laps, taking advantage of everyone that was spinning around him up to P6. Guy Davis is 7th, Russell Cager is 8th, Ian Howes is 9th, and Mike Doble is in 10th, so both of the Dobles got into the top 10. 11th place for Rhys Clayden, 12th goes out for Cliff Harper, 13th for Paul Mcguire, and he was as high as 5th position at one point, so he's tumbled down after 2 spins to 13th in the end. The Claydens had, Rhys Clayden's 11th, it's then Gareth Clayden 14th, Denny Sadler gets 15th position, and it's Langford, Cook, Gadsby who went off the road, Barrett and Smith, and Richard Sutherland, even on the slowing down laps, off the road again. That's on the exit of the Williams corner onto the Bentley Straight. Oh, goodness me, what a breathless finish that was. And not for the reasons I thought it would be, because the rain is absolutely bucketed down. It's still coming down quite heavily. And this will now certainly affect some of the drivers. And even coming to the flag, they're still spinning. That's Ian Shepherd who had the spin at Murray's. Off the road in sympathy again goes Matthew Adcock. Didn't be glad just to make the flag rather than just to get it back in one piece, let alone make the flag. Goodness me, so many drivers fell foul there, and it's really no one's fault at all. It's just simply the weather conditions just caught everyone out with the sudden downpour, and suddenly everyone's scrabbling for grip. It's one of those situations that a driver never wants to be in, where the track gets increasingly wetter and wetter by the corner, and the conditions are never the same compared to when you found them a lap ago. When you go to a corner and it's partially wet, you go there a few corners later and it's completely bone dry. The next corner could be absolutely sodden. It's incredibly difficult conditions for all the drivers to have to try and cope with. And credit to all of them for at least keeping the cars in one piece, spins or not. I think we're just thankful there wasn't any accidents, thankfully, but all the drivers are quite experienced and would have listened carefully in their driver briefings to ensure that they kept alert, and well done to everyone for getting them all home just about in one piece. Wow, goodness me. I think everyone needs a bit of a chance to breathe after that one. Goodness me. So, after what was quite a crazy finish there to that third race of the weekend for the Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup, we can at least confirm the result. Stephen Daly somehow held on to that and takes the victory by 2.7 seconds. Ben Huntley gets 2nd place and Mikey Doble picks up 3rd. Ian Jones, who's on screen there, who finishes 4th, getting his car weighed. 5th goes to Matt Flowers, followed by Simon Welton, Guy Davis, Russell Cager, Ian Howes and Mike Doble in 10th position. Of course, we had there's also a time penalty for Rhys Clayden as well at the end. A 5-second penalty for him, and also 5-second penalties for Ian Howes and Ross Stoner. Oh, poor Greg Graham stood out there watching the cars go through. We hope he had an umbrella being stood there watching his cars go back throughout the assembly area, but I'm sure he's been in tougher conditions than this, so I'm sure he'll be coping just fine. Well, this completely changes things up now for the last few races on the timetable, because it now means that we had a wet track to contend with. I'm sure all the championships that will be out next now are going to have to run a second green flag lap to ensure that they can keep up to date what's going on. That is the big rain cloud and the rainstorm that's coming in. You can see just over the circuit. That's the view from exiting. That is Brundle and Nelson. So that's exactly how dark and overcast it really is out here at the moment. So let's see if we can take a look at what's coming up for the next race. Well, the next race we've got out there is the 3rd race of the weekend for the ETSL STXR Challenge. We then also have our 2nd Track Attack Race Club race, followed by Fiesta Juniors and the Club Sport Trophy. But after what was a wild finish to that 3rd race, let's hand down to Josh Barrett in the Parc Ferme. I'm sure has a quite relieved, but also quite soaked top 3 down there in the Parc Ferme. Down to you, Josh, and try not to get too wet.
Yeah, thanks, got down here. Now a rainy session finally. Well done, Steve. First lap, very important there for you.
Yeah, got a very good launch off the line. I actually didn't focus too much on tyre warming on the warm-up lap, and my starts went better, so I don't know how that works. But very good start off the line, and just managed the gap until the rain started to come in. I don't really like the rain myself, so I had a couple of offs, and Ben was catching me a little bit. He's quite quick in the rain, so very good, very good. I mean, it's Casey Motorsport, they put the car there for me. They're the reason I'm in the position I'm in, so happy with that.
With the increasing rain, obviously, I guess every braking zone, you didn't know how much grip there was going to be?
No, not at all. And being the leading car, obviously, I'm the tester for Ben and all the other drivers, so I mean, I was the first person to kind of get a feel for what was going on, and unfortunately it was me going off, so it's a good race, good exciting race, and I'm glad they stopped it early, that's for sure.
Well done on your third win of the day. Second place was Ben Huntley. Ben, second place for you. You saw Steve going off quite a lot on that last couple of laps.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? You never want to be the second fiddle to anybody, but when it starts raining in the middle of the race, you want to be second fiddle to the guy in front, because he's the one that slides off first. So when the rain started coming down, I was watching what Steve's car doing and seeing how it was moving around, and I thought, it's a bit slippery there, so I'll back off. And good race. I kept Steve honest, but the man's like a Swiss clock. He keeps ticking all the time, and unless you get in front of him right at the start, it's a shame. But we both had cracking starts. I looked over and expected to see Ian Jones alongside me, and there was the number one. I thought, no, I needed him behind me because I knew I could keep him honest all the way through. But oh well, a second and two thirds. I'm happy with that for a weekend.
Well, I'll let you get dry, and I'll have a word with Mikey, who was third. The rain's certainly come now, hasn't it? How was your race? You had to come through the field.
Well, it was tough. I started 10th, didn't get the run of the green with the grid draw. I made a great start and got by about 3 or 4 at the first corner, picked a couple more off, and then third was about the best I could have done, so it was just about putting the lap times in, pulling away from fourth and securing the podium.
Well done on a third. I'll let you go and get undercover because it's absolutely pouring down now at Snetterton.